Back when I was studying for the LSAT, I felt overwhelmed with the 500-page LSAT prep phone books, the 15 different types of logical reasoning questions, and all the categorizations. I was feeling stuck. But ultimately, my breakthrough came when I developed this strategy I'm going to share with you today. It helped me bring my LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. And so you're wondering, what is that breakthrough? It came when I stopped thinking about the question stem type and instead started thinking a lot more about the method of reasoning in the stimulus. Because, surprise, surprise, if you actually take the time to understand what you're reading, the question becomes a whole lot easier. This strategy later evolved into what came to be known as the Socratic review method that I'm going to share with you today. It allows you to transform one logical reasoning question type into another based on the method of reasoning in the stimulus. So, for example, if we have an argument saying we should go to that restaurant because it has a 5-star rating on Yelp, we should go to that restaurant is the conclusion, because it has the 5-star rating on Yelp is the evidence. And so you think to yourself, what would strengthen that argument? What would weaken that argument? What is the flaw contained within that argument? What is the necessary assumption underlying that argument? They all revolve around the same gap or multiple gaps potentially, but we view them from a different perspective based on the question stem type. And so if we could establish, for example, as new information that Yelp reviews are a reliable basis upon which to decide whether to go to a restaurant or not, that would strengthen the argument. If, however, we problematize Yelp reviews and say Yelp reviews are unreliable, they're fake, they're questionable, there's a small sample of them, that might weaken the argument. If we say Yelp reviews are fundamentally flawed, of course, that would point out a potential flaw contained within the argument, and it is necessary for the argument to work that we assume that Yelp reviews are a reliable basis upon which to decide whether to go to a restaurant or not. And so you see here, there is a lot of complexity in evaluating arguments, but it actually can be quite simple if you take it one gap at a time, one perspective at a time. And so this Socratic review method lets you transform a question type you don't like into one that you do like. But it all starts with understanding the argument, then understanding the question stem, and of course, understanding the answer choices, particularly what makes the wrong answer choice tempting and what ultimately makes it wrong, what makes the right answer choice unappealing, and what ultimately makes it correct, because you have these traps of encouragement towards the wrong answer and traps of discouragement away from the right answer. And until you understand inside out what mistakes you're making and why, of course, you may just end up making those same mistakes again, and that's what we want to help you avoid. And so at LSAT Unplugged, we demonstrate the Socratic review method live in our small group classes and, of course, in our one-on-one coaching programs. If you're interested in finding out more, you can check out the links below this video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. And as you see here, we're looking beyond question stem type. We also want to make sure that you are crystal clear on conditional indicator words for necessary and sufficient conditions, evidence and conclusion indicator words as well. These will carry you far, but if you don't know them, you're going to be in trouble. Of course, we want you to master the most common core logical reasoning question types like necessary assumption, flaw, and inference before tackling the less common types that hardly ever show up, like evaluate the argument. Now, why am I talking about logical reasoning today? Well, in part, I'm talking about it because it's the most important section of the LSAT now that LSAT has removed the logic game section and replaced it with the second score logical reasoning section instead. Logical reasoning is now 2/3 of the test. Any gains you make there will automatically be doubled across the two sections. Of course, I don't want you to neglect reading comprehension, so I have plenty of videos covering that section as well, but you do go on and devote a bit more time to logical reasoning, all else being equal. Now, based on where you're scoring, that should help dictate what you should focus on right now. And so if you're scoring below 160, you're going to want to focus on the most common types of logical reasoning questions like necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. But if you're scoring above 160, it's time to start thinking a bit more about the method of reasoning in the stimulus and take your prep to the next level. If you're interested in finding out more about how I might be able to help you, you can check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, if you're aiming for a 170 plus, you want to make sure that you're especially clear on the methods of reasoning that are going to show up more and more often over time. Now that logic games is no longer on the test, LSAC is testing some more complex methods of reasoning in logical reasoning, since they can no longer test those concepts on the games section. So things like numbers versus percentages, absolute versus relative values, and formal logic stimuli. If you'd like my help with those, check out the links below. We'd be glad to help you out. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.